So, hi all and welcome to this webinar on building a digital insurance claims process, more specifically on how traditional insurers can use eSign to match new age digital native claims processes. A few house rules before we begin. We will be sharing a recording of this webinar within the next 48 hours. We'll send it to the email ID that you used to register. So don't worry if someone has missed out. We'll share the recording with you. And two, we will be having an open Q&A at the end where we'll give you mic access to talk. But in case you have any questions during the core webinar, do drop them in the Q&A box below. We end up taking most questions during the session itself. And I'm going to start with now 45 seconds of introduction before we dive into the topic. So please bear with me. First of all, who are we and why are we talking about insurance? We are Legality. We provide document infrastructure, which is digital tools that companies need to build paperless processes for agreements, forms, policies, and basically any other document that you can think of. We are not an insurance company, but we are a tech infrastructure provider to some of the best insurance companies, right? From new age brands to traditional insurers. Now, these companies so far are mainly using us on the legal side for agreements like DSA onboarding, vendor onboarding, and similar documents. But we're also seeing an increasing trend of late towards usage for more core customer facing documents like policies and claims. I'm Aditya, head of marketing at Legality, and I will be your host for the session. So, a brief agenda for the day. First, I'll do a brief analysis of where exactly the claims process breaks down. This will be about 10 to 15 minutes. Then I'll show you a very quick demo of how a digital claims flow would look. And third, not on the agenda, but there's a surprise request from our end, surprise opportunity for you and a surprise request from our end, after which we'll do an open Q&A. So let's begin. So, right, this webinar attempts to tackle three issues in the traditional claims process. The fact that claims are terrible for your customers, that they are prone to fraud, making it bad for you, and that they reduce your team's productivity. Before we begin, there's a small poll we're running here. So do answer it on what your number one priority is for your claims process. Right. So this poll will show up in a few seconds. You can answer multiple options as well. So do answer. It just gives us an idea of where you are coming from and what problems you actually want solved. Thanks for answering. We've got decent amount of you responding. I think most people mentioned fraud as the priority, which bears with what when we've spoken to industry people, what they've also said, right? So anyway, we know these three things in theory. Let's deconstruct why it happens, right? In front of you is a general process for traditional online claims. It's a frustrating process often as a customer to submit a claim. Customers don't like it, right? It causes frustration and evokes memories of a government office for many. And I think many times people prefer government offices than submitting an insurance claim. And this is exactly the thing that drives customers into the hands of new age digital native insurers, right? IPL is coming up and you will see some of them advertise. The main selling point in a lot of these advertisements is, hey, one, it's super easy to apply for insurance, but another big thing which you'll notice in advertisements is it's super easy to make a claim. It's all done via a few clicks on the phone, right? This is currently the main competitive advantage that new age insurers have over traditional players. And this is inevitable. There is no way to make the process better. It happens because there are multiple really annoying steps in the process, right? One, the customer has to often manually fill the claim, which could lead to mistakes. And this could lead to subsequent rejections as well. So on both ends, a bad experience for the customer. And second, even for correctly filled ones, there's a lot of manual. Can you please go back to the previous slide? There's a lot of manual effort of printing, scanning, and all that, right? So that's the first issue. The second issue is fraud, right? Some estimates say that about 15% of claims filed are fraudulent claims, right? That's about 900 crore rupees per year of fraudulent claims. And this number is likely to grow as the insurance industry grows, right? So how do you plug this gap? You can't do it by simply improving the process, right? Because the physical process lends itself to fraud by its very nature, right? One, you have no way to actually authenticate the customer filling up the claim. So if someone not the customer is like impersonating the customer and submitting a claim, you actually have no systemic way to find this out in this current claims process, right? And two, there's a manual filling up leg often that happens at your end, right? Where someone from your team takes the claim form and populates those details into your system of record. Any manual process where there's manual data fill opens up scope for fraud within your organization, and you can't really prevent these via SOPs. The third issue with the physical claims process is obviously lower throughput and lower productivity, right? Because the manual process that your team has to follow takes time, around 15 to 20 minutes per claim in the best case scenario, right? This reduces the actual throughput of claims you can process, especially when you're comparing to a digital native player that does this fully digitally and automatically, right? So far we've covered the three issues separately, but when you put it all together, you realize that each touch point of the current claims process that we've described has some issue with it. And when you put all these together cumulatively, you get bad customer experience, higher chances of fraud, and lower productivity in your organization. No one really, like no stakeholder in this is happy. And I'm guessing you are not as well since you're attending this webinar. So our proposition for this webinar is very simple, that only an eSign-based process can balance both the need for a good customer experience and the need for fraud prevention, right? Because it allows a fully digital experience while also generating an audit trail and giving you the option of adding extra authentication that can mitigate fraud, right? So some people say that I'll switch to a digital process where you just do a yes or no button, right? This may not actually solve the problem because there's no actual audit trail generated. It's not tied to the customer in any way. So while it may meet the digital experience issue, it will not solve the fraud prevention issue, right? So let's quickly move to a demo to see how this works. And then I'll come back to my surprise request and the open Q&A where we can discuss this further. So I'll just share my screen. So I'll show you a quick demo of how this works. So just to plug this page a bit, we built API demos for the product for different use cases. I'm going to show you how the claim, and then they simply submit this and press e-sign and submit a claims form, right? So in the status quo, what would happen is they would actually download a form rather than filling it up. And then they would fill it up, scan and upload. That process is going away by they simply fill the form and press a button. What happens next is these details automatically get populated on a document. Now, I don't have a live API integration. This is a demo environment. So this is just to show you how it works. It's not a one-to-one, but in your process, what will happen is the document will be pre-filled with the details submitted in the previous step. So it will be generated on the fly, the claims form, for the customer to review that, okay, this is my claims form, great. And you can also build in things like photo upload and things like that if you need, right? Proof of claim. You can build all of that. Then they simply click proceed. We've set up a quick sign here, which is a simple uh, name affixed on the claims form that ties to their email ID and phone number. But you can also do a OTP based sign. Now, for some reason, you have to do consent as well. All right. So I'll show you an authenticated flow, right, in a bit. This is just to show you how the API flow would work, right? So you can add authentication before this. I'll show you how that works. And they simply sign the document. And then your claims form is submitted and your claims form directly gets sent to your system of record. So there's no manual effort needed from your end as well. Now, of course, this flow that I showed you is not authenticated at all. It's a basic, almost like a click wrap. Some insurers do want that. What I'll show you now is an authenticated flow as well, right? So similar thing, claims. We provide a way to fill in the form, but many insurers prefer to build that form on their end and then pass the data to legality. Either option works, right? So now the first step is an OTP, right? This is an OTP you can add to it. There is an OTP sent to my WhatsApp here for authentication. I don't know if you can see it. Sorry. Yeah, the background is interfering with it, right? But basically, there's an OTP I've received on WhatsApp. Entering it. and then it's asking for my GPS location. This is an optional add-on we've added, so we just want to show you the range of authentication options possible. And then a live face capture. So this live face capture detects whether it's a live person. If you put up a photo, it's not going to detect it. You can also add a further layer of authentication of a face match. So if you have the customer's face on file, right? Let's say during KYC, you took an ID card, right? You can also match this with that as well if you want to add a third layer of authentication, right? So far we've showed you an OTP authentication, we've showed you a geolocation authentication, and we've showed you a live face capture. You can add another layer, which is also a face match as well, right? It's up to you. You don't have to add all three. You can choose one, you can choose two, you can choose three, right? Depending on your risk calculus and how strong you want your fraud prevention to be. So click proceed. Here you have the same kind of select sign, or you can do a draw sign as well. I'll just show you the draw sign. They give consent and you're done. The document will now be e-signed and the claim would go into your system of record automatically. I'll just show you the final documents as well. So this will take some time. In a few minutes, it will show up in my email. That's taking some time, but I'll show you how an audit trail would look from a previous demo that I did. So the face will appear on the audit trail. You'll get an audit trail that covers the IP address, when the invitation was sent, when the invitation was opened, when it was signed, the results of the liveliness test, like how confident it is that it is a live person, the actual live face captured, the geolocation captured, the OTP authentication when it was done, the consent provided, and we back this with our own digital signature to ensure that the audit trail is tamper evident, right? So no one can actually edit that audit trail without the signature breaking and people getting to know, right? So with this, what you get is a full digital experience while also ensuring that you can add layers of authentication that mitigate the risk of identity fraud and impersonation on the side of the customer, right? So you can build both fraud prevention and digital experience with the same type of integration and the same type of implementation. This is why we believe that e-sign based process is the way to actually do a digital process, not say a smooth click wrap based process, because that would leave fraud prevention out. If you can go to the next slide. This is how it looks on the back end, how the flow actually delineates responsibilities of your claim portal, your claims management system, and legality, how it works. We'll share this deck with you with the recording so you'll get to know how this works. But there's one disclosure I want to make. This is the surprise request and surprise opportunity for you as well. That the process we showed you now is not actually the ideal process. I mean, you can do it and it will work well, but ultimately it's a bit messy, right? Because it requires stitching multiple API calls. It's not built for a self-signing flow. There's a slightly longer implementation time as a result, and it's slightly clunky to scale, right? So why am I actually telling you this? Is because we are now building a new product specifically for forms, right? Where customers can easily store and update forms. Customers can easily fill forms digitally. Customers can fill and sign in one flow with no extra API calls from your end. And customers can track the status of their forms, right? So we are building a completely digital form experience as a new product. It's currently still in the research and development phase, but we are actively looking to launch it this year. But for that, we could use your help, right? Because you guys are the ones actually running these use cases. You know your form process the best. So if you want to help us build this, build India's first digital forms product, which will make the process I just showed you in the demo much easier to set up, much more robust than what I showed you, then do answer on the poll. We're about to run a poll on whether you want to talk to us about it, and we'll reach out to you, right? Because the process I showed you can work, by the way, so that it can work it's just maybe like an 7 or 8 on 10, right? It can get you digital, it can get you fraud prevention, but it's slightly clunky. We are building a product that will make it smooth at all touch points, right? A complete digital form center product. So do answer the poll and we'll reach out to you to have a conversation about this. Thanks. Quite a few of you have responded well. Great. So now we'll move on to the open Q&A. Right before that, if you want updates from Legality, we send you regulatory updates, we send you product updates, we send you case studies. We send you one message a week, either on your WhatsApp or email. In case you want to be updated, in case you want to be on this list, do scan this QR code, right? One message a week, either relevant regulatory updates, relevant product updates, relevant case studies, and of course, notifications for webinars like this. Hope you enjoyed today's session. I said 35 to 40 minutes. It's been about 20 minutes, so we're early. I will now take questions. So if you have questions, do raise your hand or do ask them in the Q&A box. Happy to field questions about this. And if you want to reach out to me personally, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, or you can reach out to me at aditya@legality.com if there's anything you want to discuss further, right? If you want to give me feedback or poke into one of the things we discussed today in more depth. So do reach out to me, aditya@legality.com, or on my LinkedIn. I will just drop my email in the chat. So yeah, I'm online. I'm on the call now. So do drop your questions in the Q&A or raise your hand if you have any questions. If you don't have questions, I assume I was super clear and it was an awesome webinar, but I don't think I was fully, I definitely think I left a few gaps. So do ask about them. You can also, of course, drop me an email with the questions and we will send you a recording within the next 48 hours.